We are going to go through all of the legendaries in the Commander 2020 product. What did y'all do?
I just don't even see the synergy. Strong.
You like this? Which ones did we get wrong?
Well, I hope you're ready for a tier list, because today we're talking about Commander 2021, and this one is guaranteed to be a tier jerker, and you're gonna cry like that favorite movie that you watch, but you don't tell your friends you cry, but it would feel really good to just let them know. This tier list is gonna be a lot like that.
Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Magic. We're going to talk about Commander 2021. But before we do, if you would go down there, hit that like button if you like the video. By the end of it, hit that dislike button if you don't.
Otherwise, just click that subscribe button if you enjoy the video. We've taken some notes, and we've had brief conversations about none of them. I will say that.
Let's take a look at this. All right, so we've got our non-reprint commanders down here. We've got our tier list, S, A, B, C, D, and what? We are going to look at these as the commander of a commander deck. We might mention that they would be good in the 99, but we are judging them based on their strength as a commander. And Jake, let's start with Brina the Demagogue. A black, a white, and one other for a 1/3 flyer. Whenever a player attacks one of your opponents, if that opponent has more life than any of your opponents, that attacking player draws a card and you put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature you control.
It's kind of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing. It's like keep going after who you've been attacking.
Did you say you scratch my back, I will scratch yours?
I will scratch. Oh,
because hang on.
That's going to affect the rank of this card. Yeah, so Ghostly Prison, No Mercy, cards like these come to mind. I made notes about those just because it further incentivizes attacking other players. You know, if they know that they're going to attack you and a No Mercy's on your side of the battlefield, they're just going to get destroyed. So yeah, I would actually lead toward, because of how political this card is and just the fun, the velocity with the drawing cards, I would lean toward a solid B or an A as well.
Let's say A for Brina. I do believe it is in A tier.
I want to say B for Brina, but you know, it is pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up is Felissa, Fang of Silverquill, a 4-mana 3/2 flyer with Mentor. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, if it had counters on it, create X tapped 2/1 white and black inkling creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of counters it had on it.
I do like the evasion. The flying is really nice, and the ability is very strong on the card, right? So like in any sort of heuristic...
Is it, Jake? You have to check for two things. You got to check for a creature death, so whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you've got, that's one thing you've got fulfilled. Now you have to fulfill that creature also had a counter on it. Okay, so that's two things we had to fulfill. Attack with her to put the +1/+1 counter on it. It's like you do have a little synergy built in where she can place +1/+1 counters, but she also has to be attacking. So we've got all these different little boxes that have to be ticked for a 2 toughness vampire wizard to do her thing.
So I do feel like it's like C or D territory. Again, that evasion is good because that is going to help with Mentor.
Oh yeah.
But
well, it's an automatic what for me if it doesn't have flying. I'm confused if it doesn't have flying. And so I think it's a D, and we can just move to...
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read this one. Red, blue, one other for a 2/2 legendary creature, Efreet Wizard, Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Veyran, Voice of Duality gets +1/+1 until end of turn. If you casting or copying an instant or sorcery spell causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time.
This card has got the phrase "an additional time" on it. Triggers an additional time on it. Jake, other cards that share that phrase: Panharmonicon, Teysa Karlov, Yarok the Desecrated. We are talking about top tier excellent EDH cards when you see the phrase triggers an additional time. If you've got Niv Mizzet,
I have Calamax written down. You know,
exactly.
You pair this with Calamax if you're looking for that additional, that green to join.
Right, yeah, that in the 99 of Calamax for sure, but I'm talking about as a commander.
If
you've got Niv Mizzet on the battlefield, every time you cast a spell, you're drawing 2 cards and you're dealing 2 damage every time you cast a spell.
Yeah, and also with prowess or anything like that, this is going to be very good. It's just, it's very, very strong.
I really think this one's an A. It lingers into S for me, but, it doesn't have that ward ability. It doesn't have flying. It doesn't have unblockable. It doesn't have any sort of evasion whatsoever.
It's very easy to kill, right?
Right, exactly. I don't really love...
But it is very cheap.
Yeah, but I look at this as a 3-cost enchantment.
And I imagine that when you build this into the right synergy, that Magecraft actually ends up being more potent than we're giving it credit for as well.
Very possibly. Yeah, especially with some unblockable, instants and sorceries, especially the ones with rebound. Zaffi, Thunder Conductor's our other Izzet commander. 1 red, 1 blue, 2 other for a 1/4 human shaman. It's got Magecraft. It says whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, scry 1. If that spell's mana value is 5 or greater, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. If that spell's mana value is 10 or greater, Zaffi Thunder Collector deals 10 damage to an opponent chosen at random. There are 10 CMC spells that are EDH legal, and maybe half of them are playable. So you've got 5, maybe an argument can be made for 6, 10 CMC spells that are EDH legal. So you almost automatically have to disregard that bottom text and just go, if that happens, dope, but that's not what we're aiming for here. I think here that the strategy that I would build first to really try and spike Zaffi as much as I could would be 5 mana cantrips, so that the spell creates a 4/4 blue and red creature token. We get whatever that spell did, and we draw another card.
It's going to get better with age, right? Because the more big splashy instants and sorceries that are printed in these colors, the better the card gets. I would pair it with enchantments like Fiery Emancipation, that kind of stuff. Like anytime a source is going to do something like a repercussion type effect, anything that's going to double damage. I think it's fun because it does kind of like remind me of like a trading post. Not like exactly a trading post. There's a guy on this list that we're going to talk about that's much more like a trading post, but I do think that the card is pretty fun. I would give it like a B or a C, and it would be like, it's fine. It's just if I'm running red blue, I'm probably not going to be choosing this creature, although I do think it's a fun card in a fun direction.
Jake, we've got Guillaume Master Chef up next. Lots of people were excited for this one.
Card.
A green, a black, and 2 other for a troll warlock with trample and 5 power, 3 toughness. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-token creatures you had enter the battlefield under your control this turn, and then you can pay 1 and sack a food to give a target creature indestructible until end of turn, and then you have to consequently tap it.
It has indestructible built into it, dude. It plays with food tokens, which are becoming more popular as well. I think it's very strong. I think it's appropriately costed. The fact that it has trample on it is really cool. Really good.
Biggest key, I think, of what you said was becoming more popular. Right now, I think this screams you need to play a food deck around this. And that, to me, makes it pretty narrow as far as the ways you can build this.
Yeah, I think a B is good.
Yeah, I think I'm rolling B on Guillaume.
And, we might eat crow on that one because that one might be stronger than we're giving it credit for. 1 green, 1 black, 1 other for a 3/3 legendary creature, Dryad Druid. 1 in tap. Choose another target creature. Put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the amount of life you gain this turn or the amount of life you lost this turn. Whichever is greater, activate only as a sorcery. Thank God.
Yeah, well, is it thanks? Because that sort of takes this commander out of really a lot of playability for me. However, if it didn't say activate only as a sorcery,
OP.
Suddenly you're like,
take a nice big hit and then throw it on something huge and just go to town.
I still think it's a C, though. Do you think it's any different from a C?
No, I'm medium on it. It's pretty easy to kill as well, although it is appropriately costed as far as mana value goes. You are going to be able to cast it a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fine.
Let's look at our Boros commanders, or Lorehold commanders, if you will. Alabu, Ancient Witness, 1 white, 1 red, 3 other for a legendary. Golem, 4/5. It says other artifact creatures you control have haste, and whenever 1 or more artifact creatures you control attack, Alabu Ancient Witness deals X damage to any target, and you scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts you control.
I think it's good.
I think this card is gas, and
I do too.
I'm very excited to build around it.
I think this is why Darksteel Mirror came to mind. I had a note about it because it's just it's really just like play a pile of mana rocks, right? Get it out as soon as possible and then swing with something, because it checks on the attack, which is really nice. It doesn't need to get through.
And it can just be a Thopter. It doesn't even have to be a whole line of creatures.
Yeah, dude. I think the card is brutal. I think it's very good for Boros. It doesn't really offer any kind of velocity or anything like that, so it's going to fall short there. And it does kind of pigeonhole you into running just artifacts. So, you know, I think it would maybe be like... I would give it like a solid B. I see that you have it as an A, but, you know, I'm between A and B, like B+.
Yeah, I'm higher on this one than I am Guillaume, but I can see it rolling in at B. Just because of the mana cost a little bit, and it's in less powerful colors.
That's how I feel about it. It's kind of expensive.
I mean, I do see that it's, you know, mana rock driven. Obviously, the build style is just screaming mana rocks. So we may be undervaluing this, but I think B is fair there. But I do think that Oscar is as strong. 1 white, 1 red, 2 other for a vigilant 4/4. Pay 1, sack an artifact. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Pay X, tap it, exile an artifact with mana value X from your graveyard. Create 2 tokens that are copies of the exiled card as a sorcery speed.
A little note about this card, because I thought about liquid metal coating with captivating crew and just taking their creatures, turning them into artifacts and sacrificing them.
Right.
I think it'd be kind of fun. I think it's you know, for me, I'm not as high on the card as you are. I do see the value of, like, this is getting the most out of Jeweled Lotus, right? Or if somebody destroys your Soul Ring, this is getting the most out of...
Or just sack your own Soul Ring to make 2 for 1 mana.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. So I do think there are some big things that this card can do. I just am never super excited about Boros colors. I don't know what that is. Yeah, we'll see. I think it's fine. I would put it at B as well. I do agree with you that I think that, you know, with that much text and with that much value, that that there's something here.
Yeah, for sure. So next up, we've got Adrix and Nev, Busted Casters. A blue and a green and a 2 for a 2/2 wizard with ward 2, which means any spell targeting them gets countered unless they pay a 2 as a tax.
Built-in protection. Yep.
If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. Jake, there are 4 enchantments that have this exact text somewhere on the card. All 4 of those enchantments are $40 or more.
Yeah, dude,
3
what
of
happened
them
to Parallel
are green.
Lives, dude? Like, that card from Innistrad used to be bulk.
Well, it's busted. It's busted. In Commander, this effect is busted.
Yeah.
And so the fact that 3 of those 4 enchantments are green, with the other one being white, so we'll put that one to the side. But 3 of those enchantments that are all $40 plus, noting, you know, the power of the card, are green. And then this commander takes that green, adds blue to it, and goes, oh, I'm a busted commander.
Yeah, sure. And then when you get outside of those enchantments, you start thinking about cards like Rite of Replication with Kicker, that kind of stuff. Any big splashy EDH spells, even like Cackling Counterpart. I think that card has flashback.
Dude,
you're gonna get a lot of value out of Adrix and Nev. I think they're an easy A for me, and they teeter easily into S with ward and that built-in protection. And then, of course, it's Simic, which is just...
Exactly. It's Simic, dude. I have to put it as for Simic because, yet again, we are getting a busted Simic commander that is going to be probably where a ton of the value in this set lies long term. But just as a commander in general, it's very powerful effect, and you will absolutely win a lot of games playing Adrix and Nev.
Essex, 1 blue, 1 green, 4 other for a 4/4 flyer, legendary creature Fractal. Is that the first time we saw Fractal? It has to be, right? First time you would create one or more tokens during each of your turns. You may instead choose a creature other than Essex Fractal Bloom and create that many tokens that are copies of that creature. So first thing that comes to mind, right, is like Avenger of Zendikar. You start thinking about what are all the best case scenarios for when I create tokens. And it kind of like puts you into this situation where it incentivizes token good stuff with big non-legendary threats, right?
I don't really think that this commander's fantastic. I think that there is a very interesting, ability on it. About fractals, yeah, this is a new creature type for Strixhaven, so we're seeing fractals for the first time. I mean, everybody uses the Avenger of Zendikar example for me for this one, and it's like, cool, so I can play my 6 mana creature and then play my 7 mana creature, and then I get a lot of cool stuff happening. And I just, it's such a like, oh, dude, if I do this expensive, and then
right?
this, right.
Yeah, I think it's just so expensive.
It can be a creature on the other side of the battlefield, but you also know how much I hate commanders that rely on your opponents to do things to be good. That's not what I want to build. I think it falls into a strong C for me. I think the ability is very cool and unique. I just think that there's too many different little things. Absolutely.
Of a token type thing. The fact that that's a May is really nice.
Hell yeah. I love it in the 99. What about our elephant artificer though?
Yeah, Lost Shell. Clockwork Scholar, 1 white, 2 other. Legendary creature, Elephant Artificer, 2/4. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking artifact creatures you control. Whenever 1 or more artifact creatures enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. That's pretty much the only thing I like on this card. This ability triggers only once each turn. I have that the draw is nice, but the card is pretty narrow.
We are 1 sentence away from this card being so dope as a mono white commander, and it's this ability triggers only once each turn. This card, if it said whenever 1 or more artifact creatures enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card, this would be so busted. It's like SRAM, but for any artifact.
And that's what I thought about when I looked at the card. I was like, is it good enough for me to replace SRAM? And just quite frankly, it isn't. Like SRAM is just like so low to the ground, and you're playing. I like to play like token generators and then a bunch of equipment, right? So that if SRAM dies, I can suit up tokens and get in with all that equipment. This is just, dude, it's just... I wouldn't play it.
My only note for Lost Shield, I only wrote one thing, and I wrote so close to glory, because this ability triggers only once each turn. Is just not what we want to be doing. And so I feel like
that 4 toughness. I will say that.
Sure, 4 toughness. It's not great.
D,
I mean, it's not bad.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm thinking D for Lost Shell. I felt like we were talking about a D. Let's look at Nils. Nils, I'm going to pronounce it. Discipline Enforcer. A white and 2 other for a legendary human cleric, 2/2. At the beginning of your end step for each player, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature that player controls. Each creature with 1 or more counters on it can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless its controller pays X, where X is the number of counters on that creature. I love this card in a vacuum. I think it's great in the 99. I think that it being a monocolor one, just for this guy alone, I think that it being a monocolor really kind of holds it back. Because it forces you sort of to build mono white pillow fort.
It needs to be white blue, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah, I said it's strong and cheap with a really cool effect, but how do you win?
Exactly.
That's where it came down to for me. It's like, do we want to just put a bunch of equipment in here and then make it to where Nils swings once Nils has put enough 1/1 counters on opponent's stuff?
Right. Or run something a la Zatalpa and suit it up with some stuff as well. But yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I think that this is not a good commander.
Seriously, like the card a lot. I have strong effect underlined.
Yeah, me too. I love the card.
It's
just in the 99. I think this is a very dope white card for commander, not as your commander. But I do like Dika Fractal Theorist. It's 1 blue, 4 other for a 3/3 human wizard with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X 1/1 counters on it, where X is that spell's mana value, and then you pay 4 target creature token. Can't be blocked this turn. I think that this is the biggest sleeper commander out of the entire group that we are reviewing here today. Basically, the lines of play that it's encouraging you to build is counter
big
spells
instants and sorceries, right?
Right. Well, draw cards, counter spells. You're creating 2/2s and 3/3s and 4/4s this entire time. You're returning your opponent's attacking and defending lines back to their hand. You're also creating tokens. You're still swinging through. I think it's, you know, that sort of control-y, mono blue control that is not going to be very fun to play against, but I do think that this card is very powerful.
I just had that it's kind of expensive. It kind of incentivizes big instants and sorceries, but I do see it from the counter type strategy as you're countering stuff to get creatures. That way you don't really have to run creatures. You just run draw spells, kind of run it like the, you know, the Simic Flash deck.
I still do think though that, you know, it being such a control oriented, I'm hesitant to put it up in B, and I really think for me it falls at C. What do you think?
It's just another really good card in the 99 of a deck.
How about our Elemental Octopus, Jake?
Dude, I actually really like this card. 2 blue, 8 other for a legendary creature, Elemental Octopus. It's an 8/8. This spell costs 8 less to cast if you have 8 or more instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard. It has Ward 8.
Ridiculous.
Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, target creature has base power and toughness 8/8 until end of turn. I don't know why, but Darksteel Mirror comes to mind again.
Ward 8 might as well say, you know, hexproof, as far as I'm concerned. That's
how I feel about the card as well. Is Ward their way of working around hexproof? I mean, maybe it is.
I looked this up, Jake. A little bit of research on my side. Ping research. 17 blue cards with flashback. And then there are a few more with flashback synergy. And so there are at least 17 cards. Not all of them playable. Again, half to 2/3 of them playable.
Sure.
But if you really want to go with a flashback strategy, pitch these cards. Get them into your graveyard. Get Octavia onto the battlefield. Start creating, like, you know, Murmuring Mystic bird tokens. And then start making those birds 8/8s anytime you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell.
As a commander, the Ward 8 has me wanting to explore it. So I would put it at like a solid B. I don't know if it gets into A territory just because you are going to have to run so many like cantrips in order to get it onto the battlefield early.
Right.
And then obviously any Bajuka Bog is going to take you out of the game, so you have to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is as good as our 2 Lorehold commanders here, but I do see the argument for it being B, because it's also not quite a C in my opinion, just because that Ward 8, like you said, it really makes me want to explore it. And in blue, it's easy to make 1/1 bird tokens and start turning their power toughnesses into 8, and you're swinging through that's almost a quarter of a starting life total in Commander. That's nothing to be, you know, scoffed at.
Earlier in the tier list, we talked about Trading Post, and this is the card that I actually do think is like really close to Trading Post. I think this card is really good in the 99. But 1 black, 2 other, Feign the Broker for a 3/3 legendary creature, human warlock. Sacrifice a creature, put 2 1/1 counters on target creature, or remove a counter from a creature you control to create a treasure token. Or sacrifice an artifact, create a 2/1 white and black inkling creature token with flying, and then activated ability, 1 black, 3 other, untap Feign the Broker. So you could do a lot of things with this card. I just don't want it at the helm of my deck. I want it in the 99 of any Aristocrat's strategy. I would say it's S tier in the 99 of anything like that.
100%.
But I just don't see it as my commander, dude. In the 99, I freaking love it.
I do think that this is better than Willow Dusk. I do like it more than Zaffi. I think that just because Aristocrat strategy is so strong as a commander strategy, I do think this has got some playability.
I just don't feel right putting it at...
Yeah, I don't think it's as good as
wanted it
these.
like C.5. For anybody who's like, why did you put it where you put it?
We'll say C. I do think that C is more appropriate for it. I think C is probably more appropriate for our living thesis as well. But we live in the world we live in, and that is Tivash Gloom Summoner's World. 1 black, 4 other for a 4/4 life-linking warlock at the beginning of your end step, so you can play this thing and then get some value on your turn. If you gained life this turn, you may pay X life, where X is the amount of life you gained. If you do, create an XX demon creature token with flying. So you can play this as an enchantment, basically, out of the command zone. Once you've set up a big life gain turn, you drop him, you get a big demon flyer, 8/8, 10/10 flying token creature. And then from there on out, it's just like future value gives you further flying token demons if you want to do that.
It's too expensive for me to even entertain playing it, and it doesn't have any kind of evasion built in or anything like that. I do like the 4 power, 4 toughness, and lifelink is nothing to shake a stick at. I definitely think there are ways that you can build this, any kind of like unblockable type strategies. That way you're getting in with the lifelink and you can count on making the demons.
Hopefully I've set up a turn where I've gained 10 life, and for 5 mana I'm going to get a lifelinking 4/4 and a 10/10 black demon with flying. You would play that card.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe I'm undervaluing the demon token. I just see tokens as just so squishy and easy, like any type of bounce effect, and they're just gone. So yeah, I think the card is fine. I would put it at like a C or a D. I would even be fine with it at a D. But I think it's let's go C. We'll be kind.
I think C.
Yeah.
Lelia, the Blade Reforged, is our first mono red commander.
Whenever it attacks, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Whenever you exile one or more cards from your library and or graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on it.
I love this. I love this as the commander of a tiny leader deck. S+. Yeah, it's one of those a little too cheap, a little too aggressive EDH cards for me that you're not going to have much longevity. I mean, you can play it late so that you can start, digging into your deck further a little bit. Overall, I just think it's a D.
Yeah, I mean, the haste definitely helps it out. It recovers well after board wipe effects, but yeah, I don't want to play it.
Yeah, agreed. How about Rionia? Fire Dancer. 2 red, 3 other for a 3/4 human wizard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create X tokens that are copies of another target creature you control, where X is 1 plus the number of instant and sorcery spells you've cast this turn. They gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. I think this card is super busted, but needs a second color. I know I said I wouldn't say that a lot for the monocolor ones, but this card could be absolutely busted if it was 1 red, 1 blue, and 3 other. I would be like, holy crap, this card is ridiculous.
And for me, it's a split strategy between instants and sorceries and creatures.
Right. Yeah, it does have to be a creature you control, it doesn't get around the legendary rule by itself either. So you can't really copy Rionia. You need something else. A big red creature's not hard to come by any means, but at the end of the day, how many things are you trying to do? Like you said, are you casting multiple? Are you going to be able to storm off and also play some big dumb creature that can be copied? Yeah, as a commander, I lean towards D. Jake, I think, again, it's dope in the 99.
Yeah, that's how I feel about the card as well. It's just it's a little bit expensive. Let's read about this Bear Druid. 2 green, 2 other, Ruxa, Patient Professor. It's a 4/4. Whenever Ruxa, Patient Professor, enters the battlefield or attacks, return target creature card with no abilities from your graveyard to your hand. Creatures you control with no abilities get +1/+1. You may have creatures you control with no abilities assign their combat damage as though they weren't blocked. This is a really interesting design. I like this idea. I think it's very cool. It seems very medium.
It seems less than medium to me.
Yeah.
You've got 2 ways to think about this. It's cute, but I don't want to play vanilla anything ever, forever, never, ever, never, ever, never, ever, never, never, ever.
Yeah.
Don't want to play vanilla creature in Commander. So that's out. So we can make a bunch of 1/1 tokens and 2/2 tokens, beasts, 3/3 beast tokens. And those can then swing through and their damage gets through.
More there. It's able to really get some value there.
Right.
I do see what you're saying though. Yeah, in Commander, you really do want those splashy effects, and
a card with no text. No, thank you. Ever, never.
It makes it to where you need to run stuff like you know, asceticism or like concordant crossroads. That way all your stuff has haste, or it's a world enchantment, you know, like that kind of stuff, because it does have an anthem on it, which is pretty sweet. But, you know, yeah, I see what you're saying. I think it's a fine D, but I don't think it's unplayable. And in the 99, it really is going to do things. Eudora Grave Gardener, 1 green, 4 other for a 5/5 legendary creature. Treefolk Druid. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may return it to the battlefield face down under its owner's control. It's a forest land. Cool ability. It's interesting, but I don't know how often I'm going to want to do that.
There's some cute interactions with Morph, because if your Morph creature dies, you can return to the battlefield face down under its owner's control. It's a forest land. I've read that you can then morph it again, so it flips up. But this is the closest to a what for me.
It's a 5/5 for 5, dude. It's expensive. The ability isn't that great.
I actually do think that's our what. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our tier list. This is how it fell out.
Kind of looks like a stairway.
One. Let's close the book. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Let us know down below if you disagree. You can also find the URL for this exact tier list in the description. Play along. Go make your own. Tweet it at us at JakeJoelMTG. And please feel free to yell at us in the comments. Everybody did on the first one of these we did.
I cannot wait to hear what you think of our tier list. Was it a tear jerker for you? Did it make you use the tissues that you collected beforehand? We want to hear about that as well. That's good information. Other than that, I actually I do think reading the cards beforehand was a beneficial tactic.